you need to have structure in the gym if you want to actually make progress. Now, let me start off by saying that one program, one workout routine, one set of exercises is not going to work the same for you as it will for somebody else. And that's just the way things are. So, now that being said, let's get right into it. So, you want to make sure that the structure of your workouts revolves around and is geared towards your actual goals, right? So, now a lot of people think that you can just go into the gym and exercise and work out and make the same amount of progress. But the thing is, there are going to be different exercises, different rep schemes, set schemes, intensity levels, etc., depending upon what your goals are. So the first and most important thing is determining what are your actual goals. Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to gain weight? Do you want to build muscle? Do you want to, lean out a bit but also fill up your frame, which should be a mix of body fat loss and muscle gain? Whatever your goals are, determine what they are. And then from there, you can come up with a roadmap. So let's talk next about what that roadmap might be for you. Now, I'm going to start off with what types of exercises you should be doing if fat loss is your main priority. If you just want to lose fat, tone up, and maintain the muscle you have without focusing on building new muscle, you just want to really, shred body fat and have a tone defined look, then this is going to be the roadmap. So when it comes to, you know, cardio, strength training, and determining which is best, I'm a huge advocate of, focus more on the strength training and get your body moving more throughout the day. And if you're moving more throughout the day, you're going to be in your lower intensity zone typically, and that's where we want to be in. Now, if we focus more on muscle growth, that's going to be super helpful because it's going to drive the number of calories we burn every single day up. And that's going to allow us to start burning more. And as we burn more calories, keeping our nutrition the same will allow us to start burning more fat. So we want to build muscle so that we're burning more calories. We also want to build muscle because the more muscle we have, the more we actually have that tone defined look. And we're not, just having this saggy look, right? So most importantly, we want to make sure that when it comes to the gym, we have a plan for what that is, right? So if you say your goal is fat loss, then you would want to figure out what are the exercises that are going to promote the most fat loss. Now, when you break it down, fat loss is you burning more calories than you're consuming while making sure that you're not tapping into your current muscle mass as energy. You don't want to break that down. You want to maintain or hold on to as much of that as you can, because again, that allows your body to drive up the calories it burns at rest from workouts, etc. So if we can really focus on getting our muscle mass higher, although most people say I don't want, maybe somebody like a female that really just wants more tone defined look might say I don't want to build a bunch of muscle. Now, to some extent, they have truth to that, right? Like they kind of maybe just want to tone up, but if you can focus on building more muscle, you'll notice that you don't look huge and jacked like a bodybuilder, right? Unless your calories are far exceeding what you're burning, right? And so if you can promote muscle growth, it's actually going to give you that cut look that you want. It's going to drop fat, right? Because you're burning more calories by building new muscle. You're also toning those areas. So just to get that straight out of the get-go, like if you are looking to lose fat, you should prioritize building muscle too. Because if you don't, then you might be losing weight. But if you're losing fat, that's great. But you're probably going to be losing muscle with it if you're not doing strength training or prioritizing, the right amount of protein for your goals. So if you're losing weight, that's great, but then you're losing muscle. It's slowing down your metabolism. It's slowing down, the efficiency of what your body can burn every day. And you will slowly start to burn less and less. And eventually you get to a point where you might hit a plateau. And it is very, very likely that that will happen. So you want to focus on making sure that you're doing strength training, even if, say, your goal is fat loss, right? And now, if you can focus on strength training, again, you're building up those muscles, specifically the ones that you want to tone and define, give them the most attention. And then, pairing that with getting your calories in a good point so that you're eating properly. This will allow you to lose fat while also gaining muscle. Because if we start to lose weight again, and we're losing muscle, we have a saggy look, and we don't want that. So you might physically weigh less on the scale, you might look smaller, but you still don't necessarily have the look you want, and that's super common to hear. And a lot of people have come to me with that issue, and they're like, "What do I do?" Well, the thing is, as their weight is decreasing, again, their metabolism is also operating less efficient. And so we want to avoid that at all costs. So most importantly, let's focus on getting your fat down. So if we can build muscle up and build up, the workouts in the gym with more weight, then that's going to allow us to just burn so much more. Now, the other thing I want to address is the nutrition side. So where exactly should we be if our goal is say fat loss? So we've already gotten down the workouts because we know that the workouts are going to allow us to tone up and build those muscles. Now, when it comes to nutrition, what should we do there? Now, given that building muscle up is going to help promote fat loss, you would want to prioritize giving your body all the nutrients necessary to actually go ahead and build that muscle. Because when we're in the gym, we're tearing muscle fibers down, and it sounds scary tearing, but in a safe way, we're slowly micro tearing these muscle fibers down. When we go to sleep at night, our body is going into the act of repairing, restoring, and growing these muscles. But that being said, it needs the proper nutrients to do so. And if it doesn't have the right amount of nutrients, it will start to wick away and break down muscle. And we don't want that. Again, for reasons I've already explained, you want to maintain this. So keeping your nutrition on point is going to be crucial. So if we know that we want to prioritize growing muscle, we want to give our body adequate protein, right? So what does that look like? Now, it's going to depend, really, determined on your age, your gender, your weight. But most importantly, we want to have a good rule of thumb, knowing that protein is a good majority of our overall nutrition. Now, as a rule of thumb, I like to say about 1/3 of your overall calories coming from protein. So if you want to simplify things, and if you're not tracking food, and you don't want to take that approach, then simply just whether it be eyeball or you weighing things out, whatever, 1/3 of your nutrition from protein. That's going to be super helpful because it's going to cut off a lot of cravings. Protein is much more satiating than the other foods like carbohydrates are. And that's because carbohydrates, they're quick absorbing oftentimes. Protein allows our blood sugar to stay a lot more steady. So if we can give our body this adequate supply of protein, it's going to fuel muscle growth, but it's also going to cut off a lot of the cravings. And this is something I've talked about in a couple of other videos. But if we can really prioritize protein, that's going to take care of a lot of the problems. And oftentimes clients come with me, or I should say come to me, and we start working together. And the first step that I usually have this person start off with in the cycle, unless there's something that's a bit more advanced, is consistently hit your protein target, right? And again, there's some math and some, insight that has to go into knowing what that number looks like. But once you have that down, then you're consistently getting enough protein. Clients will come to me and they're like, well, I'm maintaining muscle, I'm looking leaner, I'm dropping water weight and body fat. And it's like, we don't need to be so strict on ourselves about the carbs and the fats. Just continue with the process. If we want to make better progress, then great. Yeah, let's narrow down, tighten up a little bit around the other things. But simply by getting your protein down, that will make a huge difference. And that's what a lot of my clients will say. Even the clients I had worked with in the past before I started online coaching, when I did in person, I just had them emphasize their protein. Just like, hey, eat more protein and, try to aim for X number of grams. And they're like, okay, I don't have a lot of cravings and I'm feeling a lot better. And that's really what I'm aiming for. It's like, okay, make the process for you as easy as possible. It's hard to eat properly if you're having cravings all the time. So if you can optimize your metabolism so that you actually cut those cravings out from ever happening, and when I say ever happening, I'm serious, like you can get to a point where you never have cravings. That doesn't mean that you don't, eat quote unquote unhealthy foods at times because you choose to. You can still do that, but you can cut out all your cravings if you optimize your metabolism. Now, oftentimes, when our metabolism is not in a good spot, it makes it very difficult for our body to get regulated and know when nutrients are coming in. And so, of course, it's going to crave things all the time. It doesn't know when we're getting food next. If you put it into this, like, regimented routine, with time, your body adapts, and you'll be surprised that cravings just diminishing, right? Like you not noticing that you want that junk food or that candy or that sugar. And again, a big reason for that is if you're hitting your protein, it will cut out a lot of those cravings. And so if we can just focus on protein, that's going to be super, super helpful. All right. Now, another thing that's going to be important away from the nutrition is making sure that the workouts you're doing are, working for your goals. So again, if we're working towards fat loss, we have our protein high and we're really fueling muscle growth. That's going to cut out us, overeating typically. And if it's not, then okay, look at also making sure you're not eating enough. But 99% of the time, you focus on eating more protein, you end up eating less of the junk food, and it narrows down to literally the effect, right? So now when you're in the gym, if your main goal is fat loss, rather than doing exercises for muscle groups that you don't care much about, like again, if your main focus is just fat loss, you would want to work on toning up those muscles that are around the areas you want to improve upon, right? So say you want a tone defined look around your shoulders and arms, you would want to train those muscles more often, right? Same thing with legs. If you want more leg glute development in your butt, that sort of thing, then like train those muscles more, right? And specifically those muscle groups that are most important to you, train at the beginning of the week when you're fresh with energy, and taper off the least important ones due towards the end of the workout or towards the end of the week. And so if you know, like, okay, I have this structure with my training and my nutrition, you're going to be in a really, really good spot. Now, when it comes to the fat loss, not only do you want to focus on, toning those muscle groups, you also want to focus on, questioning which exercises are best for you. And what that could come down to is, okay, how many calories am I actually burning from this exercise, right? So, for example, if you're doing something like a calf raise, right, or a biceps curl, that there's not anything directly wrong with that. But if your main goal is fat loss, you're going to be burning so many more calories if you were, instead of doing that exercise, doing something like a seated lat pull down, you know, maybe a deadlift, maybe a leg press, something where it's a more compound movement, meaning you're working more of these larger muscle groups and multiple muscle groups together. Right? If you're doing this, you're going to recruit far more muscle fibers, which means that more of your muscles work together, therefore allowing you to A, burn far more calories than something like that biceps curl, and B, you're also going to have much more of a response to actually building this muscle. And again, this is the muscle that we want to allow us to burn more calories, to allow that metabolism to be optimized and fat to start to deplete. And it's also the muscle that we want to make sure we have, that tone defined look when we actually lose that weight. Right? We want to lose fat and actually gain muscle, right? If not, at the bare minimum, then maintain what we have. And again, the best way to do that is to make sure we're strength training, right? We're strength training to keep these muscles strong, fresh, full, and also we're eating properly in the kitchen, right? And so if we have those two down, we're in a really, really good spot. Now, when we go back to nutrition, we have, say, protein down. What about the other foods, right? So if we want to be in a calorie deficit, if we want to be losing weight, but it's not as simple as that. Because if we're in too much of a deficit, we're eating too many calories below what we need, we'll rapidly lose weight at the beginning. But sometimes we won't. Sometimes our metabolism and our body is not used to that, and it will actually store, water and more fat and hold on to the current weight because it's under so much stress and shock. So we don't want to go too far for that reason. But also, even if it does work in the short term, after some period of time, your threshold in terms of how many calories your body burns at rest every single day, that will start to drop. And so that, difference in calories that you think is 500 calories could now be 150 calories because you're burning, say, 350 less calories, right? And so it's super important to know that we're bringing muscle up so that we're burning more. We want to rise that data point, right? We want to bring that one up so that we're focused on getting our body to burn more and eating properly rather than trying to restrict and cut how much we eat, because doing so, our body will continue to cut. So it's like we're here and we're continuing to stay there, but we're never getting into that deficit or as much of that efficient deficit as we want. And so once you have an idea of like how many calories you should be eating, then that gives you a lot of data. If you can focus first on the protein, get consistent with that, that's going to be helpful because you notice, okay, after eating for about a week or so, consistently this amount of protein, now I notice, okay, I don't have cravings for these amounts of food. After about a week to 2 weeks, you now have data. You can look at this and see how many calories do I eat on an everyday basis. It might be 1,500 calories, it might be 3,000, it might be 4,000. Oftentimes, we're storing fat because we're under eating, but of course, there are times where we're eating too much, right? And so, what we want to do is gather that data, look at it, and see where is it exactly that we are. Are we overeating or undereating? Well, first, let's figure out where the starting point is, and then from that point, we can slowly make changes. So we figure out how many calories we're eating, figure out how much protein we have. Now we have most of the variables, right? So it's protein, carbs, fats, and calories that we need to look at when it comes to nutrition and fat loss, right? And so if we're eating either at the exact amount or slightly below what we need, then we're in a good spot. If we're eating too much, then for fat loss, this is going to be tough. So we want to start off getting that data, figuring out what we actually burn and what we actually eat on average. And then from that point, slowly start to bring that down and bring it down to a point where we feel comfortable. We don't feel like it's restrictive, but we're losing weight and losing fat. We'll notice in the mirror, we're looking leaner. The scale is going down. And, with time, we're getting closer to the look we want. From that point, we can make changes. And if we notice that, we're feeling hungry, then okay, boom, bring the food up, right? But we need to gather this data first to know where the next step is. And so once we have an idea of the calories and where they should be, as well as the protein, and we're consistent with that, we need to understand that carbs plus protein plus fats equals calories, meaning that carbs, protein, and fats all break down into calories, right? And so proteins and carbs are going to have 4 calories per gram, meaning that if you have 100 grams in weight or protein, that's going to amount you 400 calories. And the exact same thing with carbs, right? Now the protein is going to have much more of that satiety effect that actually keeps you full. So I recommend going for more of that. But that being said, carbs and protein, 4 calories per gram. So we look at that and we look at fats. Fats have 9 calories per gram. So now if we know how many calories are in carbs, proteins, and fats, we just need to make sure that we have exceedingly high protein, right? Like we're prioritizing that, as I mentioned previously, the reasons why that's important. We're prioritizing protein. And now we're not going over those calories that we want. We're keeping at the limit. So now if we have overall calories, it's literally just an equation. We subtract how much protein we're getting. Let's say you're hitting 150 grams of protein, just as an example, right, for math. That's 600 calories. Say we're going to try to eat 2,600. So we deduct 600. Now we have 2,000 calories left over for the carbs and fats. Now you can just eat, like, depending on what you prefer. Just make sure you don't go over. And that's going to guarantee you start to lose fat. Now, in addition to that, the next thing you can do is to look at, where do you perform better with? Do you perform and feel and look better with higher fats, lower carbs? Or do you perform, look and feel better with higher carbs and lower fats, right? That's going to be some preference. But if we can get the protein in check and we have the calories where they are, then just look at okay, do I feel better with eating more carbs or more fats? And eat more of one and less of the other. And make sure that your calories don't go over and you will be losing fat. And then you're pairing this in the gym, with actually doing exercises that tone and build those muscles that you want to tone and build. And you're also doing exercises in addition to that are burning calories enough for you to get yourself into that deficit. Now, one thing I'll say is I like to look at as on a weekly basis rather than a daily basis, because we're going to have days throughout the week where the weight increases. Maybe we store more water, we have more stress, so our body retains water. Maybe we have more food in our body that day, so we hold on to some of that. Maybe we have, more sodium or more salt in our body, so we're holding on to some weight from that. All of these sorts of things will make a difference. And so you want to make sure that you're looking week over week, not day over day, because it will start to mentally mess with you, right? You might see on Monday your weight is X, and then on Wednesday you're 3 pounds up. Now that might tweak you out, knowing that you're starting this new thing and you're eating properly. You should be going down. But if you were to look again on Sunday, 3 days later after Wednesday, or 4 days later, I should say, you'll notice that okay, like maybe that dropped back down that 3 pounds plus another half pound. So really, from start to finish, I'm down a half pound this week. But you're looking at it as, oh, I'm up 3, I'm down 3, I'm down a half pound. Look at it week over week, because this will give you a lot better data and you need time to get this feedback. So look week over week and make these small adjustments, right? And so like now when it comes to your fat loss, you're making sure that you're in this slight deficit. You're also driving muscle through the roof, bringing your protein up, right? And you're prioritizing exercise and daily movement. And you're going to start losing weight. It's just a matter of time. You will probably notice within the first couple of days that you drop some water weight because you're fueling your body more and because you're exercising more. And so if you pair this with drinking more water, you will flush out even more, right? So get your hydration up, get your nutrition on point, get into a solid routine with the gym, and you'll notice that you're starting to see fat loss. And then after a couple of weeks, if and when, and usually it's a when, you notice, unless you're superhuman, you'll notice there's a point where progress starts to slowly diminish. And maybe you're not seeing that half pound or 1 pound of weight on scale decrease, or maybe you're in the mirror looking relatively the same. Then you would want to make sure that you adjust some of those variables. So maybe, because you're focusing on building muscle, your new plateau and your new threshold, in a sense, for what your body demands and needs to maintain that current muscle and to try to build more, maybe that number has increased, right? And in addition, maybe you're burning more calories at rest now. So you want to make sure, give your body that new protein needs, that additional calories it needs, etc. The reverse is true. Now, if you notice like, wow, it's been a week, I gained some weight at the beginning and I didn't, drop the rest time, continuing to gain weight, it's probably a sign that you're eating too much, right? So, okay, maybe slowly bring that down. Now, again, you want to keep in mind, if you drop it dramatically, you're going to be under a bunch of stress. That's how your body is going to react. It's going to likely store water and likely hold on to weight. And you'll probably look bloated and worse off. So give it time and don't have a drastic drop off like that. Cut your calories, maybe 50 to maybe upwards of 100 calories less than what you're currently eating. And just slowly pay mind to these things. And over time, you'll notice, okay, maybe this is a better spot for me. And then you can continue to slowly decrease or, if necessary, slowly increase. And I think that will be super helpful in making sure that you're actually decreasing body fat, while bringing muscle up. So make sure that, again, you have the structure in the gym and you're focusing on giving your body the nutrients it needs to actually yield the outcome you want from the efforts you're putting in at the gym. In addition to that, make sure you have, the roadmap of where you want to go. So you know where your goal is, you know what the steps are you need to take. So the last thing to do before closing out of this video is start to take action. And that will give you the intended result that you're after. You will achieve your ideal physique if you follow the steps. but you need to take action and implement and stay consistent. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It can be a couple things that you focus on, such as drinking more water, eating more protein, working out consistently. And you'll be surprised at what you can amass from just staying consistent with these few habits. So appreciate you guys staying to the end. If you are looking for more content like this, then drop a comment, let me know. Check out my Instagram at JCRFit and stay tuned.